The next video in our iView training series is alarms. We're going to talk about viewing, acknowledging, and deleting alarms, setting up alarm actions, setting up an alarm source in iView Pro, and using field codes. The alarm process starts with a piece of equipment that doesn't function as expected. The logic in the controller makes that determination and triggers an alarm source. That alarm source feeds the information of the alarm condition into the iView interface, and it ends up displaying on our screen as the system level alarm display. iView then, being that it's connected to a network and onto the internet, has the capability with utilizing alarm actions to notify the humans what's going on, either with email, text messages, even alarm pop-ups. The humans then can get somebody to come out and make repairs to the piece of equipment. The piece of equipment restarts, and it clears the logic in the alarm source within the controller. That information of a return to normal is passed back up to the iView front end, and then iView shows that the alarm is closed. So let's pull that up in iView and take a look at the process. From the top of our system, we can see up here we have a system level alarm that's lit up in red. We can click on that. Takes us to the top of our system and gives us a list of all of the alarms that we have in place. Notice a few things from this page. We show under the View tab, count here and total. Here means how many alarms are at this point in the system. Total means the entire system. And since we're at the top, the two numbers match. Now, let's look at our top alarm. The space temperature is above set point, high space temp at floor 2, marketing VAV B3. I can click on this and expand it for a little bit more information, but notice what happens. We end up changing this to a hyperlink, and we are now able to click on it, and it takes us directly to the piece of equipment that went into alarm. We show a VAV box here. Our flow is at 0 CFM, but we're asking for 3000, and our space temperature is 80.9 degrees. If we look down here on our set point display, we can see anything over 78 degrees indicates that we should be in an alarm state, and we are. Another way that we can look at this, if we jump to the floor 2 level, we also see that our marketing equipment bubble is in the red at 80.9. Red indicating we are in an alarm condition. So we can go back into our piece of equipment, and now let's look at the alarms button for this particular piece of equipment. We can see the exact same alarm display that we had at the system level, but notice what we have here. So the alarms needing acknowledge here are 16 versus total 219 when we were up at the top of our entire system. We have 22 closed alarms and one that needs to return to normal. This one that is showing red acknowledge, this is what needs to return to normal. A different way that we can look at these alarms is look at view by. So date is what it comes up to as default. We can also look at to do. So we'll select that, and now it filters out everything that is already closed. So now it's only showing us where there is something to do, acknowledging the alarms. So starting at the bottom, I can come to here, hit the checkbox, click acknowledge, and this alarm ends up being acknowledged and comes out of our display because there is nothing more to do. Once more, I can do this with a few alarms if I want. I'll take everything prior to January 17th, acknowledge, and now everything is working on getting processed. You'll notice our need acknowledge is down to 11, and our closed has risen to 27. Another way we can look at the alarms is by incident group. If I do it via incident group, I can see the patterns beginning to develop. So here I can see this went into alarm for our same Space temperature is above set point at 8:34 a.m. on 126 and came out of alarm at 6 p.m. Here it went into alarm at 8:05, out of alarm at 6 p.m. Here into alarm at 9:35, and so forth. You can see the cadence. What this is telling me is almost to the day, this continues to occur. So this has been a problem for a while. And the top one shows that there is no closing bracket like we have on these others. And it's in red, showing this is one that still needs to return to normal. So let's take it down to a different way of looking at these. I'm going to select server room. And since we were on the alarms page, as we go into the server room, we are on the alarm display page for this unit. I can see that I have a handful of alarms from last month that were already closed. Just to clear things out and take care of the housekeeping, I'm going to hit select all and delete. So now I have no alarms that are associated with this piece of equipment. I'm going to go to my graphics screen, and I can see that this unit actually is shut down on condensate overflow, but I didn't have an alarm for it. So this is where we're going to set up an alarm source. I'm going to go to my properties page and alarm sources. I can come down to condensate overflow, and sure enough, potential alarm source is not checked. I'm going to check this box and accept it. Notice it didn't bring in alarm enabled. So I want to hit the checkboxes for it went into alarm, and I want a checkbox to be notified when it goes out of alarm. Hit accept. Now I have my alarm enabled. I can come back to my screen, see that we're in alarm, go to the alarms, but since this was already triggered, it doesn't come in at the moment. So I am going to, for this exercise, go to my I/O points. You can see where I locked my overflow contact closed to create this scenario. Hit accept, let it open, and now I'm going to create the alarm once again and go back to our graphics screen. You can see that it went back to normal because I released it, and it will revert back to alarm momentarily. And then update to the iView front end. And there we go. Went back to off mode, condensate overflow. Now if we go to alarms, I can see here's where the alarm went closed because I reverted it back to normal. And then the unit stopped operating because of condensate overflow condition. That is where I forced it back into alarm once again. And this is simply a date display. So this is the way all of these things can work together in letting the logic of iView alert the operators when there's a situation that needs attention. So now let's talk about actions and getting this out of the iView world and into the real world. So we're going to go to the Actions tab, and there are currently no actions that are in place. And it leads us through the process. Select one or more categories. I don't want to select all. I only want critical. Select one or more alarm sources. Okay, I want to know if I have a overflow. It's a server room, so I certainly want to know high space temp. We'll throw in, I have to hold the control button down for each of these. Fire smoke shutdown. I want to know if I have a space temperature sensor problem. And then I will also look at a supply fan alarm. So I have these selected, and we're going to then review, add, or edit alarm actions. I can do a number of different things, and once again, if you want to understand more about all of these, use your help file on the alarms page, and that will take you directly into the iView Pro alarm setup in our help file. So we'll revert back to that, close this tab. And for this exercise, we're going to use send an email. This is probably one of the most common ones that we have in place. And we'll hit add. You put in your information of the email address you want it sent to. The subject is short message, so that is going to use what's called a field code and grab information out of the controller or the database to be able to tell you what's going on. So it's going to give us our short message, whatever that happens to be. A way that I like to change this is set it to equipment. So that way when it comes in an email, I know the piece of equipment that's the subject rather than overflow. I don't really know what piece of equipment it is, so this way I can tell at a glance what's going on with it. Use default email server configuration. So in iView, we have a capability of setting up an email server so that everything routes through it. In older systems, this didn't exist and you had to put this in for every piece of alarming that you want to have in place. Now we can simply hit this checkbox. I'm going to hit accept. Oh, it won't let me. I'm just throwing something in place for right now so it'll hold it. The email server configuration, if we go here to the system menu, system options, system settings, and scroll all the way down to email server configuration. Now, I just threw in some bogus stuff to be able to have some information in here. This is where you want to make sure that you interact with your IT department. They are the people who can give you all of this proper information. Mail host, what it needs to be. Mail host port number, how you should be setting up the securities, and if you have to have a specific email address for this to connect to that system, they will get that set up for you. And then once you have it all put in, you'll hit test connection, and that will connect iView to the server configuration as you have it in place to make sure all of the pieces are going to work when you need it. And this comes back with connection failure, of course, because this is all bogus, made-up information. If it were working, it would come back with connection success or success exclamation point or something like that. So that's the default email server configuration. Another way that we can set this up is utilizing our alarm pop-up. So we'll select alarm pop-up and add it. It allows you to select who the operator is that's going to get this message. So if you have a security department, for example, at a hospital, there's always somebody in front of those screens monitoring the security cameras. You may want to have it come up on that screen if you have a very critical alarm, in addition to sending out that email. So I'm going to set myself up to group. I don't want to make it a group. And it's simply going to add this recipient. And I want to generate an alarm if the delivery fails. So if it's not working, I'm going to be notified that had a problem as well. I'll take the defaults. And if I want to append a field code for even more information, I can select any one of these things to be able to put in more information. So this is showing my to state, my alarm template, and a short message of what this is going to display. I'll also put in the from state. So it was okay and now it's not okay. So that's how we append field codes. Hit accept. And now I am going to go back in and force my alarm. And here is my alarm pop-up that I had already configured. Normal universal condensate level is returned to normal. I'll hide this once again. Closing the alarm application will purge alarms. No, I don't want to close it. I just want to minimize it so it goes back into hiding in my computer. Very important to let the people that are going to live with this know that piece of the puzzle. So once again, I'm going to force the alarm. And now it's going through triggering the alarm in iView, and it came up with our alarm condition once again. If I go back to putting it back to normal, accept it, and you can see you can even have it play a sound to let you know what the condition is. One more time to go into alarm. And it goes back into alarm and lets the operator know. Now I can close it because I'm no longer going to utilize this example. So this is alarms. Another thing that we can do within the alarm interface is we can utilize a report of alarms with the alarm actions that we have in place. We'll run this at the top of our system. And this tells us all of the alarm actions that we have set up, an email user and a pop-up. Other reports on alarming, we have alarm sources, so everything in the system that can give us an alarm. Once again, hit run for reports. This gives us a list of everything that is capable of creating alarms. And then the last one is anything that is in alarm currently. Columns will not fit on space. I'm going to change this slightly. So I switched it from portrait to landscape, and now I have everything that is an active alarm in my system. Think of this in terms of the old days of using a dot matrix printer to track all of the alarms. Now we can do it all electronically and not kill trees. That's it for the alarm segment. Thank you.